Candice Bergen is an actress who most people will recognize thanks to her time playing Murphy Brown. Though Candice has managed to make a name for herself in the industry, she had a little help from her famous father. He was a famous ventriloquist named Edgar Bergen, who made waves during Hollywood's golden age with his dummy, Charlie McCarthy. As Candice was growing up, she was neglected as a result of her father spending more time with his dummy than her. Upon his 1978 passing, Edgar left his dummy $10,000 and didn't leave a cent to Candice. She still has hard feelings about it. Join Factsverse as we explore how Candice Bergen was always overshadowed by her cruel father. Candice Bergen wasn't enough of a dummy for her father. Candice was introduced to the world of show business as a young age as a result of her famous father. He was Edgar Bergen, a man who'd made a name for himself with his ventriloquist talents during Hollywood's golden age. His dummy was named Charlie McCarthy. Not only did Candice come to view Charlie as somewhat of a sibling, but she also understandably grew jealous of him. For whatever reason, Edgar always preferred his dummy to his flesh and blood daughter. Candice has recalled memories of sitting on her father's lap during breakfast. She was sitting on one of her father's knees while Charlie was on the other. Edgar taught Candice the parlor trick of acting as his ventriloquist dummy. When Edgar would likely tug on the back of her neck as he would a dummy, she would perform the appropriate action of opening and closing her mouth. Using this method, Edgar would force Candice and Charlie to make conversation at the breakfast table. In actuality, Edgar was the only person making any noise. Edgar seems to have been perfectly fine spending time with his daughter when she was young enough for him to control, but grew more and more tired of her as she grew into an adult woman with her own agency. As Edgar grew tired of his daughter, his dummy remained by his side to keep him company. This was the late Edgar Bergen's reasoning when he decided to leave $10,000 to Charlie McCarthy in his will and nothing to his own daughter. Edgar Bergen was a Golden Age legend. Edgar Bergen was born in the early 1900s and made a name on the vaudeville circuit as a young man thanks to his ventriloquist talents. During Hollywood's golden age, Edgar and his dummy became major talents on the screen. In 1939, they could be seen on cinema screens via a pair of feature films called You Can't Cheat an Honest Man and Charlie McCarthy, Detective. In 1941, they appeared alongside Lucille Ball in Look Who's Laughing. Later in the 40s, Edgar and his dummy made an appearance in the Walt Disney feature film Fun and Fancy Free, which remains one of the most well-known films they appeared in. Edgar remained a successful performer up until his retirement at age 75. He ended his showbiz tenure with a series of packed shows in Las Vegas and passed away not long after. Both Edgar and Candice had appeared on The Muppet Show during the 70s. Muppet creator Jim Henson always had a great deal of respect for Edgar, and he dedicated 1979's The Muppet Movie to the ventriloquist shortly after his 1978 passing. Ever wish you could earn points on every purchase instead of signing up for so many reward programs? Well, with Fetch, you can. Fetch is a super easy to use free app where you earn free rewards on literally anything you buy. Scan any physical receipt or e-receipt and you will earn points for every purchase. The purchase doesn't need to be on specific brands or items. Scan any purchase. Even if you have receipts that are up to 2 weeks old, you can scan them and start earning points. After you scan, you can redeem those points for hundreds of rewards, including Amazon, Visa, Starbucks, GameStop, and Walmart gift cards. Fetch is 100% free and so easy to use. Check out the link in the description, download the app now, and use the code FAXVERSE to get 5,000 points when you scan your first receipt. This is a limited time offer for Faxverse viewers, so be sure to check it out now. When her father passed away, Candice wasn't sure how to feel. On the one hand, she was understandably upset at the loss of a parent. But there was also the guilt-inducing feeling of relief that came from knowing she'd never have to compete for attention with Charlie McCarthy again. Once Candice came to terms with the fact that her father left money to his dummy, but not to her, the actress was able to move on and finally make a name for herself in Hollywood outside her father's shadow. And Candice has had no trouble supporting herself over the course of her life thanks to her own popularity. After being ushered into showbiz at the behest of her father at a young age, Candice became a professional model during young adulthood and eventually an actress in her own right. Edgar Bergen's will contained a heartfelt explanation for why he chose to leave a sum of money to his dummy, but the will didn't contain any stipulation that explained how exactly the inanimate object that was Charlie McCarthy was meant to claim its inheritance. Because of this, whatever actually happened to the $10,000 remains a bit of a mystery. Before we tell you more, be sure to give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Candice Bergen followed in her father's footsteps. Candice was born in 1946, which means she was 30 when her father passed away. It wasn't until this point that the neglected daughter was finally allowed the chance to break out of her father's shadow. According to Candice, she spent the majority of her early life trying to get her father's approval. She never got it and came to terms with this after his death. Despite the fact that Candice didn't have a very happy upbringing, she's managed to not make the same mistakes as her father when it comes to starting a family of her own. Long before becoming known as Murphy Brown, Candice Bergen was a fledgling actress on the big screen. During these early days, she got the chance to appear alongside notable figures like Jack Nicholson, Sean Connery, and Harrison Ford. But it was her appearance alongside Burt Reynolds in 1979's Starting Over that was her big break. This was the role that first gave Candice the chance to explore her comedic chops. Previously, she'd been viewed as just a pretty face, but Starting Over made both producers and audiences realize Candice was very funny. Chances are she inherited a good deal of her comedic skills from her famously funny father. Sadly, by the time Candice learned how to use them, her father was no longer alive. Still, it's doubtful he would have been very impressed by his daughter's comedic talents. After all, she wasn't a piece of dead wood he could control to his liking. Once audiences realized Candice knew how to be funny, it was only a short period of time before she was cast on Murphy Brown. The show premiered in 1988 and became a massive hit for NBC. Over the course of the show's run, Candice won 5 separate Emmys for her role on the series. Candice's titular character was a reporter for a popular news program. In addition to her great sense of humor, Candice also lent some old-fashioned professionalism to the role. Murphy Brown went on to last for 10 seasons before ending in 1998. Where is Candice nowadays? In 2018, Murphy Brown was brought back for a short-lived revival, with Candice returning to portray the same character. Though the reboot didn't prove all that successful, many audience members were still glad for the chance to see how Candice Bergen and her iconic character were doing after all these years. Today, Candice is 76, and she's still got it. This comes in spite of the fact that the actress has suffered from health scares over the years, including a few small strokes. Due to her traumatic upbringing, she understandably put off trying to start a family until after her father's passing. She married for the first time in 1980, and her first husband was venerated French film director Louis Malle. Candice was wise to wait until she was older to get married, as her marriage to Louis proved a success. The two had a daughter named Chloe and remained married until Louis' passing in 1995. He died of lymphoma, and Candice was widowed before the age of 50. In 2000, she married a second time, and she's still with her second husband today. He's a man named Marshall Rose, who is said to have been a businessman. But it seems Marshall is retired and has been suffering from health problems over the past few years. Now it's time to hear from you. Did you watch Murphy Brown? What are your favorite memories from the show? Let us know in the comment section below. And before you go, make sure you give this video a like and subscribe to Factsverse if you haven't already. Click the bell icon to stay updated on all our latest content.